It's October 16th, 2024. I am at Joel Pearl, and it's time to get in the weeds. A lovely Wednesday for everybody. There's plenty going on in the world. Jeremy Lambert is here. Jeremy, do you have 40 minutes for us to play our favorite songs and just sway back and forth?
What are you talking about? I saw you like reference something of this. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, never mind then. It's not important. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
No. What is this?
Did you not hear about this? This was a town hall.
Clearly I didn't.
You're clearly under the wrong. You are in the wrong bubbles, my friend.
Okay, do you want to enlighten me?
An old orange man currently running for president decided that he wanted to have a town hall. He had a town hall, and in it, the air conditioning was not on. 2 people fainted while receiving medical attention. This particular orange person said, "Let's play some music from my world famous playlist on Spotify." And they played 40 minutes worth of music. I'm very much dumbing it down to very simply, he answered 2 questions and then they vibed out for 40 minutes.
All right. We can do that. I think we'd get copyright struck, but we can do this.
You know, I thought we would too, but for some reason, everyone else is playing it and getting away with it. So I think we just have to pick our songs appropriately. It's fun to stay at the one. Anyway, that's fine.
No.
I didn't want to hear it either, but it's either that or Ave Maria for 20 minutes.
It's not really that fun to stay. The YMCA is still in business. They still exist.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do up here. There's like YMCA daycares and stuff that are quite popular, at least in my city.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that person also said that you should vote on January 5th. I wonder why they would pick such a date. Who knows? Anyway, Jeremy Lambert's here. I'm here. The wrestling was on. We're going to leave a thumbs up on the video. And of course, subscribe to us here. FightfulOverbook.com is where you can do it. And get your fireworks going. Fireworks. Yeah. You can donate a super chat. Any amount, get your question or statement read on the air. No, unfortunately, we do not take song requests with your super chats, but we will take.
We can. I'll sing them.
Oh, that's true. We will sing them. How about that? See, it feels like we're ripping off the Tuesday show if we do that.
Well, you know.
It's fine. Listen, no one has
that person, you know, that person isn't in this space without me. I'm taking all the credit for that person, not Pulowski.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Pulowski's the one who does the singing, not the other person.
Yeah, the other person, I wouldn't be here without me.
That's true. That's true.
It's not true. She works very hard. She's a good person.
She is.
I apologize. I text apologizing like, "Hey, sorry, I'm just kidding," and she has no idea what I'm talking about. Sometimes she's in the chat, so I don't know. That's
true. I don't know if she's I don't know if she's here today. She'll show herself if she does. We did Zack Sabre Jr. That should do it.
That's how that works.
Yeah, if you say it 3 times, Zack Sabre Jr., Zack Sabre Jr., Zack Sabre Jr., and boom, she'll appear. She'll be like, "I'm here. I'm here."
That would have been a great bit if like she actually did appear on that, but
it would be.
Didn't happen.
I mean, it doesn't happen with Joe Henry. We tried it. Everyone's like, say his name and he appears. I'm like, ain't here.
Bless that man for thinking that Marshall friggin' Mathers is gonna show up to TNA Bound for Glory.
And then you've got PW Insider being like piggybacking on the hype, saying, "Oh, we got a big name, international name coming to Bound for Glory," and everyone's like, "We know it's Vikingo. Like we know it's Vikingo."
I thought it was going to be like Becca, which would have been awesome.
That would have been rules. Yeah. People did say that. People said it should be Becca. I agree. We've interviewed Becca. She rules. But no, it's Vikingo. And spoiler alert, cover your ears if you don't want to hear it. It's Vikingo versus Speedball Mike Bailey for the X Division Championship and Bound for Glory. So
spoiler alert. Thursday. Spoiler alert reported by Body Slam, not PW Insider.
Exactly. Shout out to the Body Slam kids. I said it on my Twitter. I said Body Slam reported it, and we talked about it on the Thursday TNA Impact show that night. So whatever. It is what it is. If you know the deal, we don't spoil things on the TNA show. We spoil things on this show instead. Because, you know, the TNA fans, they like to keep, you know, without the TNA fans. Who am I kidding? The TNA wrestlers, the TNA staff and wrestlers who are listening to our show like us to remain spoiler free. So I'm good about that. We need more Becca though.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good question. How good does Vikingo sing, and can he sing Becca songs?
Mm.
Seems like a question one should ask Vikingo at Bound for Glory. TNA then turned around and said Vikingo will be there. Like, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
they just went ahead and announced it.
It's one of those, like, someone's like, hey, I'm about to drop this. You want to drop it first? And that's how they do it with Mike. Whatever. So anyway, what do we want to talk about? We got to talk about Raw. We got to talk about a little bit of NXT. We got to talk about upcoming tonight, AEW Dynamite. I know a lot of people are feeling like this is a statement Dynamite, which seems to be a common thread after big pay-per-view moments with AEW is they got to capitalize on this Dynamite. It's got to be big. But I don't know, maybe this time more than other times it's true, but we'll talk about that. And yeah, why not? We'll get through everything. Where should we start? Should we start with Monday, or should we give the first 5 minutes of our show to any NXT talk?
We can start wherever. We can start at the beginning.
In the beginning, God created the heavens, and he created the stars, and he created the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Raw was pre-taped, but it actually ended up being pretty okay because they had a few extra segments plugged in there. That was nice. I enjoyed Raw for what it was.
Braun Breaker said this man is sucking off his family.
I love how our entire staff immediately jumped on that. What did he say? We are children. We are absolute children. Oh my God. By the way, this doesn't actually happen anymore. Takeshita versus Alexander is no longer for the international championship.
It's still Takeshi and Alexander still for the belt. It's just Takeshi and Speedball, which is on Saturday, is not for the belt.
I thought that they got rid of the title match and said it's for an opportunity.
That was Takeshi and Speedball. Takeshi and Alexander is still for the title, as far as I know.
That seems bad. Just put the title up every night.
Well, you can't, have Takeshi potentially losing to Speedball, and then the next match against Alexander is not for the title. So that's why the first match is just only a title opportunity and not a title match.
Hot take: make it a triple threat if he drops it the first night.
Okay, you know what? I'm not mad at the triple threat idea.
Yes, and then we're back on track. Listen, if there's one thing Takeshi can do is win back a title in a triple threat. Yeah. Okay, well, regardless, too many things going on this weekend. Too many wrestlings. Stop the wrestling.
There's not that much wrestling this weekend, is there?
Really, just 2 nights of Maple Leaf Pro. That's really all it is. Next weekend,
they're running Jinder Mahal against Bully Ray in a tables match. That's
the best. It's gonna be the best, Jeremy.
It's gonna be legendary for one reason or another. It's going to be legendary. Bully Ray showed up at GCW, and people didn't know it because it happened at the same night as Wrestle Dream. So it's like, oh yeah, this also happened. But man, what a worker Bully Ray is. Bless him.
I love the photo that Mance Warner posts afterwards of the team, the winning team, and they're all bleeding except for one guy. Take a wild guess as to who that one guy is. It's very funny stuff.
I hope that this whole thing, this whole JBL works the world gimmick is just to bring in Bully Ray everywhere. What a friggin'...
Can I tell you, I did a 180 on JBL this morning because I saw. You ever look at a wrestler and you immediately say, man, that person must be a real piece of shit and vote a certain way that you don't really think is going to be that way? That was JBL for a long time, being the Texan that he is. He's out. He's supporting Colin Allred, and I'm sitting there being like, he's a Ted Cruz hater. Let's go. Jables rules. He's going to turn heel at Bound for Glory, though.
Not bringing politics into my wrestling.
You do whatever you want. He was doing it before you even thought about doing it.
I don't want to do it.
I know. He's saying he thought about doing it. He didn't do it. He just thought about it.
Okay.
Well, he did it. Okay. JBL, however, is everywhere and nowhere. And it's wonderful.
Yeah. I think Bully Ray is just the mystery benefactor on all of this. He's going to bring in all the Bully Ray people. And then Bully Ray is going to put them all through tables. MLW, here comes Bully Ray. TNA. What if Bound for Glory ends with Nick Nemeth, JBL, and Bully Ray standing tall over the prone, dead body of Joe Hendry?
I mean, I kind of see Joe Hendry getting beat at Bound for Glory. So
There's no way. They're not going to do that.
No, I think they're going to do it.
They'd be so dumb to do that. Like, I understand because Joe Hendry's over here, like, yeah, January. Don't like I'm done basically in January. But they got to put the title on him.
Do they though? If he's out here saying, "Oh, I'm leaving soon anyway, yo." When does he drop it? What does he stay to Hard to Kill and then drop the title?
Yeah, he drops it to Hard to Kill. Yeah, because you can drop it to Hard to Kill and then still be in the Rumble, so it'd be fine.
I think
it's not like he's because Hard to Kill is always like the first or second weekend of January.
Yes. However, who knows how long he's going to stay once he's done. Like once his contract is really done.
I think Joe Hendry knows enough about business and being a good person to, yeah, I'll stay until the second weekend of January and drop the title. I don't think he's that much of a, bad business person because that doesn't look good on him. That doesn't help TNA. That doesn't even look good in the WWE TNA relationship. So no, I think Joe Hendry, if he wins the title, has enough sense to be like, yeah, I'll stay until the Hard to Kill and drop it there.
Yeah, I still think they're going to have Nemeth retain the title at Bound for Glory. They like Nemeth. They like what he's doing. They like him. They
I mean, really, I know they do, but sure.
Listen, if they give it to Hendry, I get it. I agree with you. They should be doing it, but man, there are so many sides that just say they're going to do something different. If they keep Nemeth as a babyface, Hendry wins. Does he turn heel? Does he join? Like JBL is the big factor in this. Going back to the larger conversation, what's JBL going to do? Is JBL going to be a part of the finish as helping Nemeth retain and then turning Nemeth heel, or is he going to come in after Nemeth loses the title and then bring in whoever needs to feud with Nemeth next? Is he going to represent Bully Ray, for example? Which, like, half joking, but also like it's TNA. They would bring Bully back in a heartbeat. They have. He had an excellent match with Josh Alexander last year, so like I'll give him that. But other than that, I don't necessarily want to see it. But they would do it. They would absolutely do it.
Putting way too much stock into, or way too much thought into TNA booking plans.
I have to. It's part of my job on Thursday.
You do this on Thursday. Eminem's not showing up to Bound for Glory. Everybody,
they'll get an Eminem impersonator.
They would. They probably would, but that would be so dumb. Don't do that. Do not do that. That'd be so stupid.
You say stupid, I say perfect.
No, that's an awful idea.
Awful. Oh man. But yeah, I just what if JBL is the guy that's being controlled by Moxley? What if Mox hands the AEW championship over to JBL?
I've already made that joke.
I mean, what if? What if it's not a joke? Maybe it's the deal. Maybe it's the real situation.
No.
Got his hands everywhere, including AEW. He runs the show now.
No.
Come on. Tell me you wouldn't watch that.
I mean, I have to, but
tell me you wouldn't watch that with a big smile on your face.
Yeah, it's complete chaos, but that's not what it is. I don't even. Shane McMahon's at least like fun to entertain because it's like Shane McMahon. JBL is not even like fun to entertain. Like he's already doing this in other companies. Like, all right, cool. He's showing up. It's very clear that like he's showing up at specific companies for a reason and AEW for another reason.
He'll show up at Wrestle Dynasty. All Elite Bradshaw. JBL AEW. JBW, John Bradshaw. No, anyway, I'm done. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw real quick. Cody and Gunther had a fantastic promo. I know a lot of this was taped, and again, I go back to what I was saying earlier. I do appreciate that they added a few backstage segments and a few extra little interview clips and things like that we hadn't seen yet or heard about that made things pretty entertaining. What did you think of starting with Cody and Gunther and the build for this match in Saudi?
I still don't like the idea of doing this match, but both guys are gonna look. It's still a champion versus champion match, and both guys are great, so they're gonna sell this as best they can. I love when Gunther just like drops his diss line, and then just gives like this big like shit eating grin. Rules. He's the best.
I'm hoping he doesn't go too far with that, by the way, because I know it's been like the mainstay of his promos. It's always been say something nice, compliment the wrestler, and then do a 180 and make fun of them. I'm hoping he doesn't just rely on that moving forward.
That's kind of his act here. He doesn't always say something nice about the wrestler. He just buries him. Like, that's that.
He buries them after he puts them over, because the whole idea is that he's trying to make them at least look a little bit strong before he beats the crap out of them.
Yeah, which is good. Don't mess with the formula that you don't need to. That isn't broken. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were going to add something else before we got into the Gunther style of promo right now.
That was it.
The match will be fine. The match will be fun. I'm looking forward to the match. Just what is it? 2 more weeks of this. 2 more weeks of whatever this build is supposed to be. I assume they'll get a little physical. Cody and a friend versus Gunther and Kaiser down the line, or do you keep hands off each other until the show?
Is it 2 more weeks? I guess
it's November 2nd, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you got 2 more Raws until you hit that. Until you get there.
Okay.
I was asking a question. Do you do a tag match, or do you lay hands or not lay hands on each other for 2 weeks?
Cody doesn't have any friends.
That's true. The only friend he had is currently threatening to air footage of his own on Friday. He was very, very downtrodden in his hotel room, was Kevin Owens.
I get what they're trying to do with this, but it's also a little bit strange that Kevin Owens is just like going rogue on all this. Just air the footage. Like, who cares? Just air it. Him being like, when he showed up on SmackDown, I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. They didn't want me to come here. Why do they care? That's the part I need explained. Is Kevin gonna make Cody look that bad? Maybe he is. If they're like, no, we gotta protect Cody. But like otherwise, like, why do they care if Kevin just wants to give his side of the story? Is this Cody Rhodes politicking? Is that what this is? He's like, oh no, we can't have Kevin show this footage. I feel like that's what they're trying to insinuate, is that Cody is like trying to politic to where he won't allow this footage to be shown. Because if I'm Nick Aldis, I don't know that I care that Kevin gives his explanation. That's what you do in wrestling, right? The guy got attacked. It's like, all right, well, explain why you attacked him. So it feels like this is like a Cody political move or something.
It does kind of feel like it's a Cody political move story that KO is going to try to tell. That he's going to be like, oh, Cody doesn't want the truth out there because the truth is, I was trying to help him, but he wouldn't accept my help, blah, blah, blah. And here we are. It feels like that's what they're trying to do. Similar to the Shades of Grey story with Punk and Drew McIntyre, which ended up being great for both men. This can work for KO. I don't know if this works for Cody, because Cody has been this like white meat baby faces, and the knock on him from the internal, like from the bubble, is the political Cody. I don't know if you can play that so well to like WWE fan X who just goes to the shows, has fun, and then goes home. I'm curious if this story beat, if that's where they're going, if that's going to actually get the crowd acting a certain way, the way that they want them to. Are they going to start feeling a certain way about Cody now? Are they going to start believing in KO? Like, how do you make it work so that just the casual fan who comes to the show believes in the story they're telling?
Well, I don't think they're trying to turn Cody heel just yet. And I don't know if they are fully trying to turn Cody heel at all. Kevin obviously thinks he's in the right. He wants to explain his side of things. Cody hasn't said anything. Cody just has ignored this, shrugged it off. Now we've got Kevin attacking Randy, as well. I don't think they're trying to turn Cody just yet. I do think it would be very easy to turn Cody though, because you've got babyface Roman Reigns, and the biggest thing a good heel needs is a good babyface, and Roman Reigns is easily the top babyface. The problem is Roman's got to deal with Bloodline stuff first, so you can't exactly jump Cody into a heel role and then put him back with the Bloodline stuff. I don't need any of that. Let him deal with Bloodline stuff, and then you can turn Cody maybe after a WrestleMania type thing. But I don't think they're going of this like political route. By the way, I'm just spitballing kind of ideas out there. I don't think it is going to be Cody is playing politics and he doesn't want this footage to be shown. As somebody just mentioned, like, oh, maybe Nick Aldis doesn't want it to be shown because it shows he's not as in control as we think he is, or he likes to think he is. And maybe it's that. I don't know if that's good or not, but I am curious of why they just won't show the foot, because it's not necessarily even Nick Aldis, because Kevin said that he sent the footage to Raw and they wouldn't run it on Raw. Is this all just to get Triple H back? Like, is that what we're doing here?
Hey,
it's all friggin' Hunter's got to come in here.
He doesn't want to be on TV, Jeremy. We can't put him on TV. We can't let him be on TV because he doesn't want to be. And it's funny because I was about to point out what you said was that KO said he sent it to Raw, but the idea of Nick Aldis being so upset that his perfect SmackDown is having issues is kind of great. If you think about Adam Pearce is currently enjoying a Monday Night Raw where, yeah, there's some chaos, but he's like, I lean into the chaos. I want the chaos. The chaos is what keeps this show going and what keeps it fresh. And if it's a tale of two very different shows in their management style, then it could be a lot of fun. And now all I can think of is WWE The Office. And now I really want a Raw and SmackDown version of The Office. When you have the two competing GMs telling their story and running their shows.
Sounds terrible.
No, it doesn't. Could you imagine? Could you imagine Michael Scott, the character of Michael Scott being played by Adam Pearce? And then Nick Aldis comes in and he's Danny California.
Did you see the trailer for that like Australian Office?
It was awful.
Is that like do I like get the humor?
I mean, it's Australia. They don't have any humor. They're not humorous people.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong. J&A's, I know you used to listen to us and comment on everything. I miss you. Tell us if we're wrong about the Australia's humor.
It wasn't that good. Like, I thought I might be missing something, but maybe I'm wrong. Is Kevin Owens a huge fan of The Office?
He is. Yeah, that is true. That's factual.
No, okay.
Redmond Survivor saying Aussies are funny AF. I mean, that's fine. I've been to Australia.
Ten Ruza says from an Aussie that doesn't represent us, and Joel, you are wrong. Well, there you go.
Maybe they're wrong. Maybe the Aussies are the ones who are wrong.
Billy Kay should have been on this show.
That's true. You got to fly her all the way back, though.
She rules.
She does. She's Australian. Everyone's Australian if you think hard enough.
Did they ever say? Remember when like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller were on Raw for no real reason? I think it was leading up to SummerSlam. And then Aldis and Pierce are like, yeah, we got something. Like they insinuated like a trade, and then like nothing really came out of it. They just dropped that whole thing.
Yeah, Jake came to Raw, and that was that. Maybe the trade's for Jimmy, who's a free agent anyway. Jimmy Uso is not actually assigned a brand.
They just keep showing up on the other shows. I know it's the build like Crown Jewel and everything, but the brand split is a myth.
It is. It's one of those stories that you tell your children when you're trying to get them to bed. Let me tell you about the brand split. What's a brand split, Daddy? Shut up. Close your eyes. We're going to talk about Cody Rhodes and the SmackDown title. What's a SmackDown? Shut up. We're going to talk about Gunther.
You're very angry at your kids here, telling them shut up.
Hey, listen, if you want your children to do anything, you have to be verbally abused. This is awful. I'm not going to say this. These are things I would never do, for the record. But also, if you have children, you understand. Sometimes you want to say these things. Women's tag titles were a big part of the opening part of Monday Night Raw. They were on the line. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defeated Damage Control with a little bit of help from the Meta Girls, as they're being called now. Feels like we're doing a 4-way in Saudi.
Meta Girls.
Yeah, they're kind of being called. I'm talking about Jackson.
I know, Jakar Jackson and Lash Legend. I watched the product. Yeah,
they're being kind of called the Meta Girls.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't like.
Anyway, feels like we're building to a 4-way at the Saudi Arabia show for the tag titles.
Maybe
at Chelsea and Piper, and there you go. Then you've covered all your bases. You've got the champs. You got a team from Raw, a team from SmackDown, and a team from NXT, and everybody's happy. Or they do it at Halloween Havoc.
They're not gonna do it at Halloween Havoc.
They got to do something. I mean, match wise, like they got to do more matches for Halloween Havoc.
Well, yeah, but
be on the docket.
They've got 3. They only like doing 4 or 5 anyway, so they really don't need that much more to it. They'll do a women's North American title match. They'll do they got a bunch of titles on this friggin' brand. I was gonna say they did do a women's title match, but I forgot that Roxanne is teaming with Cora against Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. Delta's gonna debut, so maybe that's one of the matches. Oh,
does Kalani do an open challenge?
They've been teasing the stuff with Fatal Influence, but Fatal Influence is probably losing that tag team match next week. I don't know if they're gonna earn their opportunity out of that. Maybe Kalani. It feels like they're building Lola Vice and Jada Parker to do something. I could see
that's probably on the card. Yeah, they'll do that as a standout match on the card.
Andre Chase and Rich Holland. Yeah, that looks like that could be a match on the show. So they got stuff. I feel like Wesley. They might just do Wesley and Javon Evans just one-on-one like that because they did those backstage segments last night. We thought that Wesley was going to end up winning that match and then facing Trick at the pay-per-view, but instead they went back to Ethan Page and Trick. So it seems like they could do Wesley and Javon Evans one-on-one. So they got stuff. They don't need to throw the women's tag team title match on there. They can save that for Saudi.
That's fair. Maybe they will. And it's a long way to go for that. But hey, it's never stopped WWE before for bringing a bunch of people over. And then they've got Raw the next night in Saudi as well that they're going to tape. So
yeah, so you need probably a little bit extra talent than just your typical 5 match PLE. You got to get some talent who, we got to book these people for Raw as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it could be just as easily those 4 teams. Going back to Halloween Havoc, thinking about it now with Delta, I would probably see her getting involved in the women's tag match between the 4 challengers and probably siding with the heels. I could see her coming in and becoming the heavy for Roxanne and Cora for the time being.
The thing is they've already announced she's going to be there. I feel like they're just going to have her beat the shit out of somebody.
Well, they told you that she's coming, but they haven't told you what she's doing.
No, I know.
She's going to be in a match, right? So they could easily just bring her out during or after that match and which side is she on type of feeling.
I just have her come in there and just destroy Nikita Lyons.
Well, I would like that too, but I don't think we're going to get that.
I mean, that's how I would book it, honestly, is just have her beat up Nikita Lyons and then move on from that.
Steps. Don't forget to sing your theme. Do the steps. 1, 2. Okay, don't forget to do the kick in 3, 2. The kick. Okay, now bring out the nunchucks. Oh, the nunchucks. Sorry, watching her do her entrance, you can see her brain trying to put it together in her head. I can't do it anymore with her.
Oh, Jason goes strong here. Delta versus Kalani for the title. Have her win it on her first night.
I said
you know what?
Thing. I just said the same thing a few minutes ago.
What? No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I said Kalani does an open challenge and Delta wins it, and Delta answers and wins it. Don't do the VOD where you go back, but it's there.
Did Joel say this, everybody?
I did say this. If you rewind the VOD 2 minutes, you will see that I said this when we started talking about Delta. 100%. I said this.
Okay.
But yes, I would rather keep her away from the North American Championship and have her instead get involved in this see, he did.
Yeah, pause our finisher says Joel is wrong.
Yeah, he did. Pile driver finisher says this all the time. But Zeno Hour, and if you're going to believe anyone, it's Alexa Bliss Gamer. That's the one you have to always believe. He did though. But anyway, I don't necessarily want her to go after the North American Championship. I would rather want Delta to be involved in that top of the women's division, but as a heavy. So in other words, introduced but not thrust into the title picture right away. She's instead part of the conspiracy to keep the title on Roxanne, I should say.
We're gonna ban Ryan from the chat for
what? Hashtag Joel does in fact say a lot of things.
Well, but for saying Delta should toss around Thea Hale, absolutely not. The GOAT Thea Hale.
Get rid of Ryan right now.
Yeah, we are not gonna have any Thea Hale losing to anybody. Thea Hale should be the women's champion.
Sentient Goat Kane.
She rules.
She does. She comes out with Riley Osborne. She should have kicked what's his face? Sorry.
Ridge Holland?
Ridge Holland right in the dick.
She's gonna beat the shit out of Ridge one of these weeks. It's gonna rule.
It's gonna be fantastic. She's gonna have a hardcore match with Ridge Holland. And probably she should drop him on his head and be like, now you know how it feels. And then they'll do an injury angle with Ridge Holland instead. They did that already. It's fine. Let Thea Hale be the one who wins it for Chase U. And then Andre Chase at the end is like, Thea, I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm going up. I'm joining the SmackDown brand. But I want you to have Chase U. And we'll call it Thea U.
As it should be.
As it should be. And then they gift her a new shirt. And then all of a sudden, you just hear her running around, just like she's just running in circles, so excited that it's now Thea U. And that's it. And the Delta is the first person to join Thea U. Wait, now I need this to happen. Yeah. Forget Hail U. It's not Hail U. It's Thea U. Hail U was too easy.
Hail U's better, though. Sometimes you got to take the easy ones if it's better, you know?
I guess.
Hail U's better.
Hail you. It's like a guy from the South trying to say, hell yeah.
If you want to see Thea Hale kick Ridge Holland's ass, give me a hail you.
Oh, God. Where's Shark Boy when you need him? It's Chase U just the women's dormitory.
Man, hell you. I'm all for this.
Hail you.
I need them to really do something with Thea Hale. She had that great match against Roxanne. And then I'm not sure she's wrestled again since that match. She's just been, chilling while everybody in her group gets beat up. At some point, she needs to kick someone's ass, preferably Ridge Holland's. And that needs to be that. She literally has not wrestled on television since that match against Roxanne. That was in July. That's so. Shawn Michaels needs to get his chef hat taken away. He ain't cooking nothing right now.
No, he burnt it. He burnt it to the ground, and I don't like it.
How do you not have the best wrestler in the entire division wrestling in matches? It is legitimately unfortunate though. She had a really great performance in that match, and even Roxanne Perez was like, "Oh, Thea is great. She's so young, and we're gonna be doing this for a long time." And it's yeah, never mind. She's not gonna wrestle for 3 months now.
You go to hell, Matt Cardona. You go to hell.
God, sorry, remember that? That was.
We're back. Yeah, like you said, she is young. I hope that they start putting her back into the swing of things and giving her something. Maybe, again, go after the North American Championship. Maybe that's her big win. If a heel captures that championship from Kalani Jordan sooner than later, then I could see Thea Hale getting that first taste of NXT Gold in the form of that title. And I'd be there. I'd be there for the ascent, the Thea Hale ascent.
She's gonna end up like just being almost forgotten about with all this new talent coming in. She's good enough. She's good enough to where like she will continue to stand out. I don't think she's gonna get lost in the shuffle or anything, but it does feel like they should be doing just a little bit more with her than just chase you to sidekick.
First of all, Tatum Paxley rules. Do not speak ill of her. And also, I would love nothing more than to have Thea Hale on this show. Of all the interviews we could ever do, this is the one. This is the one that I want to do. First question, Thea, are you aware of our nickname for you? No, it's sentient cocaine. How do you feel about that? This interview is over? Well, we had a good run.
I feel like Thea Hale would be appreciative of this.
I think so too. I think that there would be a good joke about this. I think she'd love it. The human energy drink that's the PG version, the watered down version. I prefer ours. I don't know. It's definitely on my wish list. If I could get Thea Hale on this show, I would love to do that. But she needs to be in a program. She needs to be factored into something.
She doesn't? No. She doesn't need to be factored in anything. Just have her on the show.
No, it's not like with AEW where if they're not like super duper factored in and they're like, I want to do interviews, the wrestlers can just go to make it work. Right? It's very rare with WWE stars that they like go off and get these interviews with random wrestling podcasts about.
I find a lot of stuff. You'd be surprised.
That is a good point. But also, if you remember the was it the Legental interview with what's his face from was it Deitch? Before WrestleMania, I think it was, right, where they were talking about, or maybe it was before SummerSlam, when they were talking about targeting more superstars with their interests. In other words, if Braun Breaker is super into talking about fishing and cars, I'm just looking at your background, then they're going to target Braun Breaker onto a podcast that does more about fishing and cars because he gets to kind of show off a little bit more of his interests outside of just professional wrestling, where the questions might be the same. So I think that's why we start seeing a lot of WWE stars appearing on different podcasts that are like non-wrestling adjacent.
This isn't a wrestling podcast, so who cares?
Not even at our best is this a wrestling podcast.
And, we're talking about, oh, well, we need their interest to align with your podcast. My interest is Thea Hale being the friggin' GOAT. So yeah, she should be on this show. Like, I'm interested in making Thea Hale the greatest wrestler of all time.
Miss Hale, first question. Have you ever been sold pot by one Prince Nana?
Did you see he retweeted that?
I did. He basically confirmed it. And I love it. Sean had piped in to be like, they used to use coffee grinds to hide the smell of drugs.
Oh, we used to do that. And I think that this doesn't matter anymore. When you'd smoke in the dorm rooms and you put like a bounce fabric softener in a the hell do you call those things? A toilet paper roll.
That, yeah.
No, a toilet paper roll. So, you take the hit and then you blow into the toilet paper roll with the bounce fabric softener. So, your smoke comes out smelling like fresh laundry. So if anybody came into, your dorm or whatever, that allegedly hide the smell. I don't know if it actually worked, but that's what we did anyway.
It's not something I ever dealt with. So most people just open the window.
Oh, we didn't have windows in our dorm rooms.
What? So, how did you not have windows in your dorm? I assume not openable. There must have been windows.
There were windows, but yeah, somewhere like, or if they were like, you don't want to open a window and like some dorm rooms are facing like the campus. So you don't want to like show that you're smoking and blowing the smoke out the window when all these people are walking by.
Okay, well, what floor were you living on? That's the question.
First floor.
That's the problem. You see, my dorm, I was living on the 13th floor.
Yeah, so first floor. So, and yeah, our dorm was like facing our room was like facing the campus. So literally people were just like walking by our our room the entire time. So you can't exactly blow the smoke out the door or out the window because people would get very. Yeah. So yeah, we would do the blow it through the fabric softener, toilet paper roll, and then get some Febreze and then shoot the Febreze around. So we weren't. I don't think we were allowed to have candles.
Yeah,
In
couldn't have candles. Yeah, couldn't do that.
It's like a hazard and shit.
Yeah. But you could just blow the smoke out the window. Again, we had the crank windows, right? Because it was always
right. Yeah, we had those. Yeah,
because it was just like preventative measures in case someone wanted to do something bad out the window. But in this case, like the crank windows where the windows kind of open up this way, and just blow it out that way, and that's how people did it. And
I assume people who weren't on the first floor could do that, but first floor dorm room facing the campus can't exactly get away with that one.
So I was an RA in my third year.
Of course you were.
This
narc.
The thing is, I really was not that person. No, I did it because I needed a place to live on campus, and I didn't want to get a room because my parents were like, go do this. It'll be so much, Basically, they were like, it'll be cheaper. Just do this, and also they paid to be a don, and they gave you subsidized rent, and also this was actually the best part. You got like a junior 1-bedroom to yourself. No more like even the place my first year. I had a roommate, but the way that the rooms were laid out, this is for anyone who wants to follow along. Pittman Hall at the former Ryerson University, now known as Toronto Metropolitan University. Pittman Hall would have 3 types of rooms. You could have a single room where you have to share a shower, like a bathroom with showers and all that with some people. It's pretty traditional. They would do an apartment style room where you can go in and you'd have 3 other roommates, so 4 people living in an apartment where you share 1 or 2 bathrooms, or you could have the double room where you have one roommate, you share a bathroom, but your rooms are actually separated. So there's an A and a B room, and those rooms lock automatically as well. That's what I had, and I loved that. But yeah, my RA year, I had my own, junior 1-bedroom. It was great. But yeah, I did it because it was cheap rent and everything. But the 4th floor was always the worst floor that year because it'd be like the party floor. Shit would get wrecked. It was bad. But like, my floor was great. My floor was a bunch of dirks. It was the best. When they partied, they knew to go elsewhere. I even encouraged it. I told them, guys, if you're going to party, don't do it in your own room. Go somewhere else. They clean it up. And that's what they did. They all went down to the 4th floor, and that's where they partied. I didn't have to deal with it. I had the best floor.
You being an RA is the least surprising information I've ever learned on this show.
I actually applied to be an academic RA, which would have been worse because I don't give a shit about people's academics. But I was then asked to become an RA in Pittman, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Get the better room because I was supposed to be in a different residence. That was the old hotel.
You just got asked to do it?
No. I applied. So I applied to be an academic RA.
And then so you were trying to be a narc. Okay.
No, because academic RAs are just like homework helpers, essentially.
You're trying to be an academic narc.
Basically.
This is worse. This isn't making you sound better. It sounded like you applied to be like a what do you call those people?
A homework helper, a tutor.
Tutor, yes. Homework helper sounds
which is hilarious when you take into account that I was studying radio and television arts with a minor in English and sociology. So maybe half of that was useful.
So you applied to be a tutor, which is like, okay, fine. Tutors there's nothing terrible about them. And they were like, no, we want you to be an undercover cop instead. And you're like, yeah, okay, I'll do that.
It wasn't that. You know what actually got me to do it? Was that they had me in what was called the International Living and Learning Center, which was the former hotel that was turned into a residence. So you had like a nicer bed and you had your own bathroom, but the rooms were smaller and they wanted you to pay more for it. So I said, I don't want to do that. And they said, okay, do you want to be an RA in Pittman? And I said, yes, I absolutely do. Because I get the junior 1-bedroom, I get my own bathroom, I get my own apartment and my own kitchen, which you didn't get in the International Center. And I took that. So really, I took it because it was to my.
So you got bribed. You're a dirty cop on top of all of this.
That's why I didn't do shit on my job, and that's why they didn't hire me the next year.
This is terrible, Joel. This doesn't make you look any better.
By the way, when they told you if you were coming back that year, like if you reapplied, when you got your responses, They did it on Valentine's Day. How shitty was that? So on Valentine's Day, I get my rejection letter, and my girlfriend at the time was just like, "What do you want to do now?" I'm like, "Not anything else," because I was upset. I had to go find a place to live next year.
Did she let you cry on her shoulder?
She was very short.
Oh, well, then you could have easily cried on her shoulder, I guess.
Maybe. I don't
You should have gotten consoled on Valentine's Day.
We probably did, but I just don't remember because it was a long time ago. God, I'm old.
All right. So I lived by myself my second year. First year I had a roommate. He was cool. He smoked weed all the time, so that was fine with me. So that's how I learned all these tricks, everybody, from my roommate my freshman year. My sophomore year, though, we got our own rooms, but they didn't have air conditioning. Like that was like the gimmick is like, yeah, you guys can live by yourself. Like you can live because it was supposed to only be like, freshman and sophomore, you still needed like a roommate. Junior and senior is where you could like upgrade and live in like the nice little apartment buildings or maybe get a room by yourself and stuff. But freshman and sophomore, you're supposed to still like live with a roommate and everything. But if you decided, hey, you can live in this building, there's just no air conditioning. Like, yeah, whatever. We had windows, so you bring in like a window fan, plug in, whatever. You could bring something in there to still like have air. It's just the air conditioning didn't work. So I ended up living with 3 of my good friends. And it's like you walk into, it's like a 4-room living quarter. It's not like a living quarter, but like it's a hallway. There's a door to the hallway. And then in the hallway, there's 4 separate rooms. You get what I'm saying here?
I think I do. I think I got
the hallway's not like a living space. It's literally just a hallway.
It's a hallway. Yeah. But then you turn into a room and there's like a separate entrance with a bunch of rooms in there.
Not really a bunch of rooms. No. Okay. It's basically like there's a big door. You open the big door, and then there's like from the outside, and then there's a hallway, and then there's just 4 doors in the hallway, and each door is a separate room. That's basically what it was. So it wasn't like an apartment type of thing. It was, I don't know what you call this type of this shit, whatever. But I ended up living with 3 of my best friends, and we kind of like apartments, but not like, again, not really apartments, but yeah, kind of like apartments. So anyway, we leave our doors unlocked all the time. Let me tell you, folks, that's a mistake. I don't care if you are living with your good friends. It's probably a little bit worse because at least like you could trust them to not steal your stuff. Like it was useful because like if we needed something, it was like, hey, I forgot this in my room. Can you get it for me? Well, my door was open. So you can go in there, you can get it, you can run it over to you, whatever. Like, so we helped each other out all the time with that. The problem was we leave our doors unlocked and then pranks and stuff would happen. So I bring this up because I saw our pal, Louis. I don't think he's in the chat today. If he is, he's not been active, so he's a coward. But Louis was tweeting his friend of meat spin. You know about the meat spin, Joel?
No, what is that?
Don't go to this website, everybody. Don't do it. Just
if I did, I don't remember, but go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, meat spin. How can I put this delicately?
Don't. Get hard.
You know the song, You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round?
Like a record, baby, right round, right round.
Yeah. So that song plays, and it's a guy meat spin. All right? That's all you need. Is it clicking with everybody here? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. MEET spin, right?
MEAT. Yeah.
Okay, just clarification for the audio listeners.
Yeah. People, if you know, you know. And people are like, oh boy. Yeah. So this was a pretty popular website, I guess. I don't know. But the issue sort of is, where's Meat Normus to get this?
That's true. Meat Normus would be absolutely on top of this. Wait, that's a bad.
Well. Bad. So anyway, meat spin. If we left our laptops in our room, again, people could just freely go into the room. Let me tell you, when you opened your laptop and you clicked your homepage and you're expecting Google or whatever your homepage, maybe the university website because you need to log in and do your homework and stuff, and you don't get that, and you happen to have maybe you bring somebody back to your room and you're like, oh yeah, let me look that up for you. And you click your homepage and that's the first thing that pops up. That person might not come back to your room anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Or they're going to be very happy to see it.
We had to like ground rules pretty quickly of like what was allowed when our doors were open, because then we started just doing like pranks and stuff. The big one was like we got a bunch of packing peanuts and we just put the packing peanuts all over the room. Picking packing peanuts like out of our bed sheets like months later, just like how the fuck is this still here? Glitter was a big one.
Oh, glitter is awful.
Yeah,
My wife will not allow anyone to give us anything with glitter. If there's a glitter on a birthday card or any card, no, it goes in the garbage immediately. Or at least you put it on a plate or something. Like no glitter. No glitter.
Yeah, so we had to eventually like ground rules of like, hey, you know what? We gotta look out for each other a little bit. Pranks are fun, but at the same time, the packing peanuts was fine. Like that's funny, you know what I mean? But like having your internet screwed with and making it seem like your homepage is meat spin, that's a turn off for some people.
For some people like it though.
Yeah.
Someone actually, Tenruz had mentioned, this was very funny because I didn't think about this. Said, Joel, were you with John Pollock in Waitinga University? I didn't realize until now that John Pollock went to the same university and program as me. But he graduated in 07. I graduated in 09. So he's a couple years ahead of me. And Pollock and I have run into each other quite a few times at wrestling events. And like, we'll say hi, we'll catch up and everything. But I've never actually like had the conversation with him that we both went to Ryerson, which is now TMU because anyway, not important. That's actually really funny. So next time I see John, I'm going to have to bring that up with him because he is much more the journalist than I have become.
We'll get John Pollock on this show and ask him about meat spin.
It's just going to be 20 minutes about like talking about Ryerson issues, Pittman Hall and all that.
That's how you count me out of that conversation. I don't understand.
That's fine.
That. I want to know if John Pollock ever visited Meat Spin and if he smoked weed in college. That's all I care about.
Oh, I feel like we can get those comments on the record.
Pollock's gonna do this show and Pollock's like very professional.
Oh, so professional.
Like good, unlike us. So like him being on this show would be an absolute trip. Which like, what? Huh? What is happening on this? I thought we were here to talk about ratings and the Nielsen leaks and all this stuff. Like, nah, we're not doing that at all.
So admittedly, I've never listened to Way and John do a post show, like a post wrestling show conversation. I watch Pollock and Thurston. I very openly talk about that. And I know that John is and again, having interacted with him, he's very professional. He's a very nice guy. I have nothing negative to say about him. I feel like maybe they might let go a little bit more on like a post.
Yes. So okay. This was back when I didn't dedicate all my time to wrestling and I viewed it more as a hobby than the job it has become. I would listen to John and Way because I always found their reviews very insightful. And yeah, they're a little bit more laid back on that, but more Way's a little bit more like laid back and can riff a little bit. John is still, he keeps it tight and moves things forward. It sounds weird, but
it sounds a lot like you and I, to be honest. I am in the John position and you are very firmly in the Way position. You're in my way of life. Sorry.
No, they're fantastic again with the reviews. It's been forever since I've actually listened to one because again, I don't dedicate. I watch the show, I talk about the show. I literally spend almost every waking hour doing wrestling. No offense to anybody else reviewing wrestling. I don't feel like listening to your show. And truthfully, if like this is what you do for a living, I hope you don't feel like listening to our show either. Please do something else that's not wrestling.
We're good when you're going out for a run at 10 o'clock at night and need a really stupid thing to listen to.
If you want to listen to our interviews, like I feel like we do good interviews. We're working on somebody who should be really fun. Hopefully that comes to fruition this week. I won't say anything because then I feel like if I put it out there, it's gonna fall through. But like I'll listen, if John and Way or John and Thurston have an interview, I listened when they had Kendra Barker Lammy on. Like if I'm listening to an interview, yeah, sure, I will listen to that all day because that's news for me. But if it's just, hey, let me review the show, I don't listen to Sean. I don't listen to Denise. These are people who came to my wedding and who I'm very good friends with. But look, I ain't got time to listen to the reviews of this show.
It's fine. There are plenty of people who could listen to our stuff that aren't in the bubble, and it's probably for the best. The bubble is useless. Get out
Nobody in this bubble should be listening to this show.
That's true. Unless we have someone newsworthy or a conversation that's newsworthy. But again, then we end up with like, why didn't you listen to us when we gave you these obvious spoilers?
I listen to Grapsodia a little bit. Again, it's a thing of it's a Saturday, which is fine, but like Saturday and Sunday are the 2 days that like I'm never fully unplugged, but I'm like maybe half charged for those days. So I don't always just want to spend my time listening to their stuff when they talk about like non-wrestling stuff. I'm way more interested in that. I don't like listening to other people talk about wrestling because I listen to it too much every single day, literally every day. And again, literally almost like every hour. Like last night. So for people who are, I don't know, confused, new, whatever, but like who don't like understand like what I sort of do, I'm watching NXT and I'm also listening to like Logan Paul interview Jelly Roll about wrestling. So like and then I'm listening to Powerhouse Hobbs because he's talking to In the Click and he's saying he's cleared and stuff. People who watch this show like know sometimes I'll be listening to stuff like while we're doing this show. When John Cena was on Howard Stern, I was listening to John Cena on Howard Stern in the middle of this show. Like I'm so locked in on wrestling interviews, like really, really locked in 5 days a week on top of like covering the shows that like Saturday and Sunday, I'm less locked in on that kind of stuff. And again, I just don't want to listen to like other people talk about wrestling. I'm way too in the bubble about wrestling to want to know. And I don't want to be influenced by other people either. Like I think it's not an issue with the good podcasters. They're not influenced by people, but I don't want anybody to ever come across and be like, "Oh, well, I heard this elsewhere." Like maybe you did, but I can promise you if you heard my opinion and somebody else said it, it's not because I took their opinion and was like, "Oh yeah, I and just regurgitated it." Like I don't want to be influenced by that kind of stuff.
That's fair. I still listen to Grapsody usually Saturday nights. Once it hits my podcast feed, once the kid goes down, I'll either go for a walk and listen just to get my body moving and something to laugh about and listen to. I like listening to some of these different takes. I try not to regurgitate much, and if I do, I will often give credit to the people who said it. Like Ryan saying in the chat, Steven Larson. So I listen to the Going in Raw guys because I think they're very funny, and I've mentioned this on this show before. I take my storytelling and my wrestling reviews from 3 different angles. One is the news, which is, I get, obviously because I'm at Fightful and I trust Sean, I get my news specifically from Sean 99% of the time. I get the analysis mostly from Wade Keller, because I really appreciate his experience in the business and his historical analysis. So I do listen to that. I don't always agree with it, but I also don't always agree with Sean, and I don't always agree with Steven Larson. Steven Larson I get from a production and from a storytelling standpoint. So again, I tackled their 3 opinions from different areas, and that's why I just keep to those guys, and of course whatever I think up during my time reviewing this shit. I do not listen to Solid Monster, but I do like and appreciate that he's out there. He's been around for a long time doing this stuff. So that's where I'm at. I listen to a few, but I don't listen to many. Sometimes I'll pop in on other random streams just because.
I definitely don't listen to the grifters. I have no time for any of that stuff. I I've said this before. I'll say it again. I hate podcasts like Bischoff's and Cornette's and Booker T's and all these other podcasts that give opinion on Booker T. I'll make sort of an exception for Booker T because at least he works at NXT, and when he gives an opinion on that stuff, like, okay, cool, like he's at least there. When he gives his opinion on AEW, no time for it. Absolutely no time for whatever his AEW opinion is. He's not there. I don't care. I don't like these wrestler podcasts. Undertaker is another one. Like, again, if he's going to give his opinion on WWE, fine, a little bit, but like the back in my day stuff, I like listening to these guys when they are telling stories. I don't care what their opinion is about this stuff. When Undertaker's telling me, yeah, I went over to like South Africa, Johannesburg, and saw a bunch of hookers fight, and like he's just, Vader in Kuwait, when he's like just telling old school stories, that's the shit that I want to hear. Booker T, here's a story that's coming for everybody on Fightful at some point. I don't know when. It's not very timely, so it's something we'll probably schedule out. Booker T's talking. I don't know if you guys know this. Booker T is like an affection for Red Bull. Like he's a big Red Bull guy, especially back in the day. It sounds like, I don't know if he still does it, but like back in the day, he like had to drink a Red Bull before like every single match. So he's backstage and he's got like this cooler of like Red Bull. And so they used to rib him of like they would take his Red Bull and everything. It was really fun. So this is the interview with The Undertaker. Of course, the only thing that like, and look, I understand the game, and this is why I'm posting The Undertaker. Oh, nobody takes pride in being a professional wrestler. Like, look, I'm here. Got to play the game, sadly. But this story,
he doesn't like being on TV, so you got to stop playing.
Yeah. This story was way funnier to me than any of like, oh, The Undertaker. These guys don't take their pride in pro wrestling anymore. This story is way better. So they're talking about Booker T and ribbing him with a Red Bull and everything. And Booker's like, oh, there was this one night I went backstage and Sabu's there and this dude's drinking my Red Bull. And I'm like, I didn't know who he was. I'm like, who the hell are you? And he's like, oh man, I'm just here. Sabu's like, Booker's like, I give a fuck if he was with you. He's drinking my Red Bull. And this guy's like, I'll pay you for it, man. I'll pay you for it. And I slapped the Red Bull out of his hand. I'm not fuck you in paying for it. Get the hell out of my locker room. And then he got out of the locker room and Sabu's trying to apologize. I said, you know what? Nah, get out of the arena. I escorted him out of the arena, kicked him out the back door. Booker's like, come to find out, this guy was an MMA fighter. He would have kicked my ass if he would have known. And then Undertaker is like, but you sold it. You were so angry. Booker's like, I was so angry. He believed I was ready to throw it out right there. So he didn't do anything. But he's like, man, I could have got my ass kicked. I was cackling at this shit. I was like, yeah, tell me this kind of stuff. Like, this is good stuff right here. I don't give a fuck what your opinion is about Jon Moxley in that storyline. Tell me you're trying to fight MMA fighters because they were drinking your Red Bull. That's way more interesting to me.
Yeah, give me your stories, not your opinions.
Yeah,
is absolutely the way to do it.
I'll always put over Jeff Teague's NBA podcast. He's great because he just tells stories. He gets basketball players on there and they're talking about going back and forth in playoff games, and Jeff Teague's like going through it. I'm sure people may have seen clips of Jeff Teague talking to Derrick Rose, who just retired, and how they're going back and forth in the playoff game. They just tell stories. And then you got these other podcasters, these Gilbert Arenas is just like, oh, I don't think this team is good because they don't do this type of thing. It's like, you can tell he's just doesn't watch the games and he's not informed. And it's just like, man, just tell me some stories, Gil. Just give me some stories on this stuff. Much prefer those podcasts.
Speaking of stories, let's tackle the super chat real quick because there is some movement on it and we'll get to it. Ten Ruza sent a super chat saying Vikingo to AEW, please. Brock back via after and WrestleVotes. We're going to talk about that in just a second. WWE going to WWE and leave TNA a hollow shell in 2025? ? Dynamite looks great. Hope Reg enjoys it live. That's right. Our Righteous Reg is planning to be in the building for AEW Dynamite tonight. Hope he has a good time. His homie might come back. He's cleared. Powerhouse to be the best place to bring him back if you ask me. But on the Brock talk, Sean just tweeted out he's saying pump the brakes. He's got a story coming to Select later on. So for those who missed the story that kind of came out, Bill Apter and WrestleVotes do a Q&A podcast over on Sportskeeda, and they're backstage, their Patreon, I guess. And there was some aggregation that there was talk about kicking the tires on talk about kicking the tires on Brock and a potential return, and a lot of this conversation was fueled by mentions of a Beast on Monday Night Raw. I saw it as they just mentioned the name, move on. This isn't a thing. Again, if you've listened to Sean for the last little while, like they took great steps to remove Brock from WWE programming. I know that Triple H said once upon a time, he's like, I'd be open to bringing him back. Triple H doesn't get to make that decision when there's an active lawsuit where Brock is not in the lawsuit, but he is implicated within the lawsuit. Felt to me like they were just saying names to say names, and it feels to me like there's no Brock. And I don't think there's a plan for Brock. We'll find out later today with Sean's reporting, but it feels certainly like that's not the case. I'll let you take over if you have anything to add.
I just thought they were making references to history. That's it. I never looked at it of like, ooh, does this mean Brock is coming back? Seth said, like, I've slayed Beast. Like, okay. Cody referenced it. It's like, well, they're just mentioning history, as they should. This is something that both men have accomplished, and it should be noted when it comes to the things they were talking about. It didn't feel forced. Didn't feel like it was just there to just throw the reference in there. And that's all I thought about it. I never thought it was leading to some big return. I think it'd be very stupid of them if they wanted to bring him back here. One, they don't need him. It's clear, like they're doing fine without him. Two, I don't see the benefit of just bringing him in with everything going on. I just don't know what you gain out of, okay, it's Brock, but the optics are way worse than any type of like pop or potential monetary gain when you don't need it. It still wouldn't be good if your business was hurting and you felt like you needed to do it, but you could maybe justify it to yourself, not to me, but you can justify it to yourself a little bit more. Right now, it's like everything's clicking. So why do you just need to bring him in when the perception of what you're doing here just opens you up to far more criticism and questions? It just feels unnecessary.
I think Jose Alvarado makes a good point. The Brock stuff on Raw to Jose was no different to when Mercedes said she's beaten a queen on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago. It's a good point. You make reference to your past. You make little clips and little quips, and nobody thinks Charlotte Flair is going over to AEW. Instead, it's Charlotte Flair to AEW. No, it's not. It's
until you get in trouble with when Britt Baker is saying like you're going to need a boss, and then Mercedes doesn't show up until a year later.
She gave those tickets away. It's okay. She was in the makeup chair. Remember, she gave them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. Instead, it felt like they just kind of did it passingly, like you said. It was a history, but it's referencing history without outwardly referencing the name, and that's it. It doesn't. To me, it never felt like Brock was coming back. Believe me, if there's movement, you would have known about movement before they even made reference to it on the program. It's not, to me, something that's on the table right now for multiple reasons. Like Jeremy said, they've already got so much going on as we start to kind of move in towards the new year, WrestleMania season, the Netflix debut. Like there's a lot already going on. I don't think you need to add the Brock story to it. You've got John Cena coming back in a few months. That's big enough for most people. Like the amount of people that you will get from a John Cena return to wrestling for his last hurrah, for his last full-time run, that's good. Stick to that. Plus you've got Punk. Plus you've got Cody and Roman, and The Rock will be back. There's so much already happening. Brock is just extra, and it's not even good extra, in my opinion. If you get Becky Lynch back and Charlotte Flair back, both from injury time off respectively, that's enough. Plus Rhea Ripley, plus Bianca Belair and Jade Story. There's a lot already happening. Don't think you need that extra Brock on top of it, especially given what the last year has been like for him and allegations. So that's where I sit with all that.
You don't need to bring him back and open yourself up for questions and, again, criticism when you're doing just fine without him, and you just don't need him. You just don't.
Yep. And again, like you said, you open yourself up to questions. And if there's one thing that Triple H is really good at, it's sticking foots in mouths during certain media scrums.
The other thing is, like, right now the lawsuit is paused because of the federal investigation, but that pause ends in December. So we're only looking at a couple months here until the lawsuit is no longer paused. And then who knows how it's going to proceed. And if it does go to trial, Brock could be someone who has to take the stand because he is implicated in the lawsuit. So you don't want to bring him back on television and then all of a sudden this thing moves forward. And wait a second, now it just feels so unnecessary. So unnecessary. Like, when you don't need to do it. And this is something they don't need to do. The risk does not outweigh the reward here.
And I'll add to Pile Driver Finisher saying, I agree, but I also don't see them closing off the idea. Neither do I. I'm fully am aware that if there is some daylight to make it work and he's clear or whatever it is, they're going to make the attempt. It's a piece of shit he is a piece of shit for the things that are being alleged, if that's the case. Unfortunately, he also becomes a draw. And that's a whole other can of worms and a whole other conversation that comes with the conversation of daylight that I just kind of mentioned. So no, they don't close off the idea, but as of right now, quite unlikely. And we'll have more on Fightful Select. Best $5 in the business. You do it, you get it right.
I don't think they close off the idea to literally anyone. Like, I think if they think it makes sense for them, I don't think it's fully closed.
Yeah. You know what? They've also they've brought back Jesse on a Legends contract. Jesse Ventura. And I'm talking about people who talked about never coming back. Bruno came back, Warrior came back.
And even if the idea is not closed, again, you got to look at the risk reward. Maybe the idea is not closed, but if I'm looking at it and like, okay, but is this worth it? Is this really worth it right now? And right now, none of it feels worth it.
I agree. You move on with the stories you've gotten, the people you've got coming back. Hornswoggle came back. On the Vikingo stuff, Vikingo to AEW was part of the super chat as well. Someone in the chat had mentioned, well, the person representing Vikingo seems to be K-Dog. And yeah, I don't know where that sits right now. It's going to be up to Vikingo. And
have you listened to his podcast?
So you know what? For the first time ever, I listened to the sit down that he had with Dave Meltzer because I was curious and I had some time. And they would first of all, that thing went for like 4 hours.
Yeah,
they were talking for a long time, and they did talk about Vikingo, and they made allusions to him maybe going to WWE. But if he shows up at TNA, then TNA has a relationship with AAA. TNA has a relationship with WWE. Who knows if that's a thing? Who knows if that's not a thing? Regardless, the next place you're going to see him in the US on television is going to be at Bound for Glory, and that'll be that. Where he goes from there, where Vikingo goes from there, that'll be up to his contract when it's available. And then also they mentioned on the super chats the TNA losing talent to WWE. I don't think they're going to leave them with a cradle. Or a crater, I should say. They're going to cradle talent, but they're not going to leave them with the crater. I think that TNA will have to continue building up the talent that they have and also trying to identify who's next up. They have several wrestlers who can have the opportunity and take it. It's up to TNA to give them the opportunity to build. And also they can pick up people as they go along. There will be free agents at any step in the way. It's up to the wrestler to want to go there, and it's up to TNA to want to bring them in. And if they're doing a talent exchange with NXT, then they can continue to work with that. TNA is never going to be the number 2 promotion again. They're just not. They're going to continue to operate the way they are. They're going to try and sell their company as soon as they can to whoever's willing to pay the price that they're looking for it. And that's it. It's TNA.
I mean, look, if they end up losing Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace, that's two pretty big losses because they've put a lot of equity in them, especially Jordan for years now. Joe is just more not so much overnight, but he just started kind of burst over the past year. Jordan's someone they've put equity in for like 3-4 years now. So those are two big losses. But yeah, they got guys and girls who they can put next up on that. Like sometimes they haven't always done the best of building those talents and making them fully next up because they decided to go with whoever just got released by WWE or whoever's a free agent type of thing instead of putting or just going back to the same people they've always gone back to, which has happened way too often over the years. But they certainly got talent that they can thrust into some spots.
There was one point when TNA going into Slammiversary had 6 well-defined main event talent, and they've kind of moved them around a little bit, and they've done okay with that. But now it's we're going to see it break up. Jordan, like you said, had a lot of equity put into her. I think they're going to celebrate her going to WWE. They clearly are very much aware of the situation, and they'll build accordingly. Now, who that is, seems like they're putting their eggs in the Masha Slamovich basket because they're going to have a match at Bound for Glory. It feels like that's going to be finally the big win for Masha. They have her speaking English now, cutting promos, not just being Russian badass who isn't always a badass in TNA, but not important right now. Instead, they're going to kind of give Jordan the thank you for coming. Same way they did it with Deonna Purrazzo. They didn't just, nerf her and that's it. She was done. It was the end of her contract. She was beaten down at the last Impact show by Giselle Shaw. They had plans for Giselle Shaw too, and then everything went on its head with Scott leaving. So Masha would be the next one. Whether she wants to stay, it's up to her. But they clearly want her to stay, and I think she's happy where she is right now as Masha Slamovich. But with Joe Hendry he's made no bones about his intentions, and that's fine. I think they see it as a benefit than they do a detriment to TNA. Don't push Ash by Elegance. Put her in a tag team with Heather Reckless. They're doing it now. It's perfect. No, it's perfect. I've never praised Ash by Elegance until the Slammiversary match was better than it should have been. The match by Elegance that they did was really good. Now they've taken her out of the main event in TNA. They've put her in this new soon-to-be tag team with Heather Reckless, who they just signed. Ash and Heather, Reckless Elegance is the perfect next up for the TNA tag titles. They're going to win those TNA Knockouts tag titles. And then after that, Havoc and Rosemary are going to recapture them. Havoc comes back, gets her revenge on Ash by Elegance, and we move forward. Simple as that. But yeah, Jonathan Gresham is also, his contract is up per Fightful Select the same time as Jordan Grace. Where does he end up is a big question. Because he said he's all good with Tony Khan. But also if Jordan's going to WWE, it's not set in stone that because your partner goes one place, you're going with them. I could see Gresham going back to a place like AEW or Ring of Honor.
I think it really just comes down to what Gresham wants, because Gresham is certainly talented enough to go anywhere, but there are certain drawbacks, his size being the biggest one, that people are gonna look at and not put as much stock into him. Like, does he want to do Ring of Honor? Does he want to do essentially cold TV tapings and wrestling one big pay-per-view every 4 months? I'm sure he could take independent dates still with that, but is that something he still wants to do? Does he, we know when Jonathan Gresham was the guy in Ring of Honor, he had a lot of Ring of Honor pride. It feels like those days are done. It doesn't feel I know people still have some, they want to keep with Ring of Honor and we can make this something. I don't feel like Jonathan Gresham is, I'm going to plant my flag in Ring of Honor and really try to rebuild it, because I don't know if one person can do that. I don't know if that's possible at this stage for Ring of Honor. I feel like if he's offered a coaching spot at NXT, like he might be fine just doing that. Being like, okay, I'll come in here and do some coaching and go on, and maybe he gets a shot in NXT. We shall see when it comes to that.
Yeah, with Gresham, I've said this before, that the TNA contract, or the reason to stay with TNA is always you're working 2 to 3 times a month. You're open to do literally anything else. No, the contracts are not huge, but the opportunities to diversify are absolutely out there. Say the same thing with Speedball. His contract is coming up too. If he decides to stay with TNA, well, it's because he likes what he's doing now outside of TNA, and he's going to keep going. If he's offered a deal, I don't particularly see him going to WWE this time. I think he's closer to a AEW deal, if anything else. If he goes away from TNA, the presentation just makes more sense. So yeah, a TNA deal is not a bad deal. It just comes down to what your outside interests are. Maybe you have another job that pays well. Maybe you have a school that you're training wrestlers at. Maybe you have other independents that you like working for and want to continue having that creative freedom to work and be a road warrior for all intents and purposes. Who knows? That'll be up to Gresham once his contract's officially up.
Yeah.
Jay and Jimmy from Raw. Should we get into that real quick? Feels like
nothing to get into. Jay was like, "Get out my face. You can't relate." That was it.
That was it. No yeet. You really think it's going to end up with Braun Breaker and Jey Uso have a Intercontinental Championship match on Monday? Do they take the title off of Jey, or do they let Jey keep the title so that he can thrust it into Roman Reigns' face and say, "Look what I did without you, big dog"?
No, I think they keep the title on Jey. I wouldn't take the title off of him just yet. I actually think it feels like that might be a DQ finish, and Bloodline gets involved, and Bloodline lays out Jey, and then Jey starts to realize, oh shit, might need some backup. And then he gets Sammy first, but even that's not enough. Bloodline still takes them out, and then we start to see the OGs come back together.
Yeah, I'm largely in agreement there. Do a DQ, keep the title on Jey. He needs it for now. He needs it for the story. It makes so much more sense. But yeah, we'll see where that plays out. But Jimmy and Jay, I'm glad that they started the interaction on Monday. I'm glad that they're going to at least play into it going in and out of Saudi, and they got to do the coming together of the brothers and with Roman, and there's much bigger story in that. Yeah, other than that, I think Raw was fine. It was just a 2-hour, let's get through this show.
They're lining up some big pops. WWE is when they get the Jay and I know Jay and Sammy have had a lot of interactions on Raw, but like Jay and Sammy, that's gonna be the pop. Jay reuniting with Roman, it's gonna be a pop. Sammy reunited with Roman, it's gonna be a pop.
He's gonna say yeet. Roman's gonna say yeet, and then Roman's gonna sing Ole. What else is Roman gonna do?
When Roman says yeet, oh man. If he gets Roman to just do the yeet, I don't know if Roman should, but I don't know if he needs to go like that. I don't need Roman going full
No, he should do the sexy bunny, just like Rhea Ripley.
Oh yeah, Roman's gonna say Usi, and that's gonna be yeah. I rewatched that segment the other day. Every time it comes across my timeline, I'm like, I gotta watch this. Like, it's so good. It's so good. The way he just pulls Jay, it's like, you stay right here. Like, that's what's wrong with you. You can't find your Usi. Let me tell you something. If you don't find this Usi, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change his name. He's gonna be a full-blown Us. We might change his name to Sammy Uso. And then Jay just like trying to cover his mouth and then like, try to keep a straight face. It's amazing. What a segment
that was the best, because they went on a 3-week run where Sammy was causing them to break at every turn. He was just the presentation for him, this was go back. This was 2023, early, like late 2020, late 2022 into 2023. This was perfect. So much of this shit was like very, very well done. And it was just Sammy being Sammy and the bloodline having to like put up with it. And they just had such a hard time keeping a serious face throughout this whole thing. It was fantastic. But yeah, Roman saying yeet, Roman saying Usi. There's going to be some stuff. There's going to be some moments, and we're going to be laughing our ass off the whole way through.
Heyman's coming back at some point. Like they got some big pops lined up between now and Survivor Series.
When does Paul Heyman come back? Does he come out at Survivor Series to lead that team?
Like, no.
Is that the moment, or does he come out before then as like the person, the person that brings them out?
I think he comes back a little bit before then. Okay.
As like a, what's the word I was thinking of? He's that good luck charm. He's the person that pushes them forward. He's the person that gives them that extra oomph. There's a word that I'm thinking of. It's not cheerleader, but it's cheerleader.
The wise man.
Yes. Yeet man.
He's the wise man, Joel.
He's the hype yeet, the yeet hype man. It's Roman Reigns coming out and doing yeet. That's what I want. And not Roman Reigns. I want Paul Heyman to come out and do a yeet. Sir, I've been told yeet. Paul, what are you saying? I've been told yeet.
It's gonna be good stuff.
Looking forward to that. He's mother's milk to the boys. Well, speaking of mother's milk, she's going to be along with Jon Moxley tonight.
What?
Well, that's Marina Shafir's finisher. She calls it mother's milk.
Right. True.
Totally non sequitur, but it works. Mox is going to be a part of Dynamite. We don't know if he opens the show. If we had it up to us, he would absolutely open the show. I love it. The caption was fantastic on the graphic. Jon Moxley is AEW World Champion. Nobody is safe. So it's good. And now I'm like, this I made a reference to it at the beginning of the show. After a big AEW pay-per-view, people tend to say, oh, they really have to have a strong Dynamite here. And they do, and it feels like this is one of those times where you really do. But more than anything, this Mox promo, this Mox segment, whatever this is, has to hit a home run. It really does. What does it look like in your head? This nobody is safe. This Mox comes out. What's the vibe?
I'd have Moxley and Blackpool pull up or whatever, just entering and beating up some dorks on their way to the ring. Like, you want to tell me nobody is safe? Good. That's what I want. Just like them beating the shit out of people on the way to the ring. I don't fully know what it looks like. I'm not going to pretend like I know what Jon Moxley is about to say. I will say this. Anytime Jon Moxley needs to deliver a home run promo, I feel like his batting percentage is pretty good. Feel like at the very least, he's not going to triple on there. Like, anytime you need Jon Moxley to go out there and deliver on the microphone, Jon Moxley typically gets it done. So I don't think this is going to falter at all. I think Moxley's going to do exactly what he needs to do here. Now, does that mean everybody's going to like it, or it's going to make fully sense, or people are going to be satisfied? That's a different question. That's a different story, because people are going to have their opinions on this regardless. But I think Jon Moxley is going to deliver what he needs to here. But yeah, I would start the show with him. I'd have him beat some people up on his way to the ring. And I would imagine, if I am going to kind of fantasy book this promo here, I would imagine it would be Danielson needed to be put out the pasture. His way was not the way we're doing things around here, and kind of what we talked about all leading up to it is Wheeler Yuta, we identify as the future. This is what you need to do. This ain't about neck bridges and stuff. This is about getting grimy, getting dirty, taking out anybody in your way by any means necessary. You need cold-blooded killers out here. when he talked about Darby, you're not ready. Talked about Orange Cassidy. You guys are just out here. You want to do your fun stuff and you want to think this is, I don't know if you want to say like, oh, this is all a joke. This is all a game. But it's like, no, it's not about that. Like we need people who are ready to fight and put shit on the line around here. This ain't no fun and games and yes chance and all this shit. And then go from there.
I don't know if I would open with him beating up people. I get the idea of, nobody's safe, therefore he's showing you that. I'd rather people just kind of back away.
That's fine.
Yeah, not even like cower in fear. And I'm just thinking if I'm blocking the shot, like he's walking down the hallway, people are just kind of like turning their heads. They're drawing no attention. They are church mice at that point. They leave. They're done. I would love to see that. I'd love to see this issue of fear amongst members of the lower locker room. And then you've got the four guys, right? You've got, you've got Darby, you've got Orange Cassidy, you've got Hook, and you've got Daniel Garcia as like those guys that are going to inevitably stand up. But as of right now, Moxley has to come out and it's his mission statement promo. And you can argue that the mission statement promo was taking out Bryan Danielson, but that was mission number one. Mission number two is now explaining what the hell is going on. Because again, he didn't acknowledge that he was the champion. He didn't care. The title went in the bag and he got it the hell out of there. The title was almost a captive, a hostage. And now I'm curious, does that mean anything? And then of course, someone's going to come out and try and defend the legacy and the importance
Moxley
of AEW, and it's going to be Darby. That's the one thing, again, going back to the Darby stuff, where I'm like, I need Darby to not be the purveyor of all things AEW is good, but it might work here if the story is right that BCC just doesn't give a shit about AEW. They give a shit about wrestling, whatever it is.
Well, it's not necessarily not giving a shit about AEW. So Moxley, before he won the IWGP title, he did promos where he's like, everybody's got a title. There's the international title. There's the intercontinental title. There's the San Juan title. He just names a bunch of shit. Like everyone's got these titles. And I felt like that is part of him putting the belt in the bag because Moxley used to, we can go back to the promo he cut after Brawl Out, where that was the, take the shot, be a hero. And he talked about the title like being important. It means you're the best and what it represents. But now there's so many titles that the title doesn't necessarily represent that to him anymore. And I think that's the point of this of, that title used to be something, but now we got 8 million titles. This guy's a champion. That guy's a champion. So it's no longer about these titles at this point. Yeah, this title still means that I'm the best here. But what really means I'm the best is that I was willing to murder a man to show you that I was the best. I was willing to take a guy who I called my best friend, and I was willing to put him out on a stretcher, end his career, because that's what AEW used to be about. Again, I don't know if this is the full verbiage or anything, but this is what we used to do. It used to be about putting people through glass tables. That's what he did the first Dynamite against Omega. It used to be about breaking the rules, changing the system, being a disruptor. And somewhere along the way, we lost all that shit.
Jimmy Jacobs, come on down. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, I don't fully love, by the way, I don't fully love of like, oh, let's heal the company or babyface the company. I don't love when they do that, because sometimes I think they do that too much, especially restore the feelings. Like, well, you're telling me this show has sucked for the past few years and now you want it to restore. So I don't love that full on verbiage, but I'm trying to express the point of where I think, don't know anything, I think it is going and could go based on what we've seen on television. As it is for Moxley, it's not necessarily about the titles anymore. Because again, he has said everybody's got a title nowadays. Everyone in the world has got a title. So it ain't necessarily about the title. This is what it's about. It's about making the sacrifices. It's about bleeding. It's about doing things by any means necessary to prove that you want to be here or you want to be the absolute best.
Big Man Dogs has pointed out, other wrestlers should express curiosity, interest, or fear in big main event angles. And you have said this, and I'm agreeing with you. This was also part of what made the beginning of the Elite storyline when the Bucks took out Tony. That's what made it interesting, was that other wrestlers did get involved and other wrestlers did give their take. And then it went the way it went, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. Instead, this time around, you should absolutely have those other wrestlers be like, can't do that. This is awful. They should be, again, the idea of praising Bryan Danielson, but also sorry, what's the word I'm thinking of? They're praising Danielson, but they're also admitting that Moxley was the better man that night, but he went about it the wrong way afterwards. Something like that. My words are just kind of messed up right now, but I would love to see Moxley's whole raison d'etre to be not about restore the feeling, forget that, but that, like you said, we go back to basics. We make this this place matters more because we're here, because I'm here, and because I've shown you time and again that when you run into these stupid problems, I'm the guy who comes around and is the solution. I've proven time and again that I am your break glass in case of emergency fix, but I'm not that anymore. I am the problem, which is also Marina Shafir's thing. I would love for him to just point that out, just to say, you don't have to use names. You don't have to say, when CM Punk acted up, you made me go and take care of it. You don't need to make reference to those things, but instead you need to make just a casual reference that, yes, you've relied on me for a long time. Well, now it's time for you to have to come after me. And on the Danielson front, Wheeler Yuta absolutely did the job of taking out Danielson because he had to. He understood that Danielson was going to be his own problem. Danielson was his own worst enemy in the ring because he refused to know when to say goodbye. That he kept worked hurt, made it worse for himself, made it worse for his family. As a result, I did what any other friend would do. I took Old Yeller out back and I shot him because he needed to go. And that's the Wheeler Yuta approach. He's being controlled by someone who has a pretty extreme view of how things should go, a pretty binary view of how wrestling should be. And that's going to be a fun story to tell. I'd like to see it. We didn't really talk about this, by the way, after Wrestle Dream. We made reference to the media scrum. It was very short, but Will Chisholm sent a super chat saying, felt bad for Mariah May at the scrum. Why y'all think no media didn't ask her questions? I think that media scrum was pretty awkward for a lot of reasons, one of which being the end of the show was a bit of a big angle. And you didn't have Tony Khan there. And it started late. And I don't know who was in that room, by the way, for media. I don't know who was there. But you watched it, you covered
some
it.
People who were there.
Yeah, that's fair. There were some friends. But yeah, you want to give a take at this? Because I know you watched it, you paid attention to it, you covered it. Mariah May did. There was a clip that went viral about how she felt being in that room with those people at the time.
I don't know about, I wouldn't say friends. I legitimately don't know anybody who was there as I know them that well. I know who were there because they named their outlet when they were called upon for other questions. So that told you who was there in some instances. But
which, by the way, people, please get better at that. If you're in those rooms,
I thought everybody did that pretty well on this one.
This one, yes. I've been to a lot where people just get up and talk.
Okay. Like the media scrums, I have a different thought on them altogether because I have to cover them, and a lot of times you don't get a whole lot out of them regardless, especially from the wrestlers. Like the wrestlers, Mariah May is a character, and people don't necessarily want to ask questions to a character. And I understand that. At the same time, you should probably ask questions to, if you have the opportunity to do it, you should probably do it. Like the clip, by the way, was very edited. It wasn't as bad as that clip made it seem. It still wasn't great, but it wasn't, because she's like, oh, do you have any questions? Like Nigel asked her a question and she kind of answered some stuff. And then I forget the first name, I apologize, but Hart from Body Slam asked a question and she answered that. And then nobody else asked any questions. And that's when she kind of was like, okay, well, no one has any questions. I'll just leave and everything. But yeah, people don't always want to ask questions to characters. But Don Callis was in full character, and people still ask questions to Takeshita. I think that if you have someone up there, ask them questions. You're gonna get character from some people. You're not gonna get character from other people. One question for the women's champion, the AEW women's champion, is a little, I don't want to say insulting, but it doesn't make the people in the room look great that the AEW women's champion is up there and only one person had a question for her. You couldn't ask, hey, have you talked to Mina? Like, where's Mina been? You couldn't ask, what about yourself? If you know you're going to get a character thing, what about your celebration? Are you ever going to do your celebration? Even if it's like looking forward to something, what about Mercedes? Like, whatever it might be. Like, there's something to ask the AEW women's champion.
So I fully agree. And the onus does become on the people in the room to ask those questions. And if the feeling is, oh, she's going to be in character, so I shouldn't ask. No, you ask. You can still get something out of it. We
ask her about Wendy Richter. Shit.
Yeah. This is going, I've mentioned this before on our show. When we had Mustafa Ali on our show, he was very much in character, but he was also very entertaining because once we realized, okay, we're doing this in full character, whatever, we had so much fun with that. And then Sean was there and it became a little extra sauce on it as well. Where like we got good quotes and we got good conversation and we got good stuff, but it was in kayfabe, and that's okay. You can do that. This is something that if you are in that room, I always recommend come in with your questions. Come in with your kayfabe and your non-kayfabe questions and read the room, whatever it is.
So Henry's saying, what next for Mariah May? That was already kind of asked by Nigel. So that was, you couldn't really ask that at that point. Again, Nigel kind of asked a question and set things up. And then again, Hart, I apologize. I should just look up his first name, but Hart from Body Slam was asked a question, and that was, I think Hart might have actually asked like what was next, but Nick. It is Nick Hart. Thank you. Apologies to Nick. But yeah, Nick asked like basically what was next. So that question was off the table, but there's still, again, other questions of, hey, do you, even if it's something like, it can be a throwaway thing. I hate saying that, but if you know it's going to be character and you don't think you're going to get anything out of it, a simple, hey, have you heard from Toni Storm? When do you think we'll see Toni Storm back? And then it's just, she gives her answer that she's going to give, and you get something. You at least ask a question. It's better than any questions from Mariah May, and then no one has a question for the AEW Women's Champion. Someone's got to have a question for the champion. It was a weird energy regardless, because I imagine a lot of people do these press conferences. It's because they're going to get an opportunity to ask Tony Khan a question. And not everybody's going to get an opportunity to ask Tony Khan a question, like just in general. So when the first thing that's said is Tony Khan's not going to be here, the mood in the room immediately changes of, oh, great, I came all the way here. I was hoping to get at least one question to Tony to maybe learn something. And now I'm not even going to get a question to Tony. So I don't think that's a great position that the people in the room were in either, because I'm sure, I don't know this for certain, but I would imagine that everyone's there. They're hoping to talk to Tony. They're hoping to ask Tony something. And now they just learned, oh, well, I'm not going to get a question for Tony. What's the point? Like, why are we really here?
I don't know when I'm going to be in another one of those rooms. It's a very strange room to be in, those kayfabe vortexes. But every time I go and every time I'm there, I think to myself, there's always an opportunity. One of the things that I found in my experience doing the AEW ones was that you didn't know who was coming. You didn't know who was coming out, and they never really made any they never tried to tell you who it was until they brought out the wrestler. You had to kind of assume. You knew Tony would be there, obviously not at Wrestle Dream this past weekend, but instead you kind of had to operate on an assumption that so and so won, therefore they're coming out. But that doesn't always ring true in the end. That was one thing that was very confusing and frustrating, and something that actually I think WWE has done a good job at is that when they do their media scrums, they now tell you who's coming. And I really like that, because you can prepare a little better and plan a little better. And I hope that AEW will do more of that, tell you who's going to be there, or at least have someone from their PR team tell you this is who's coming, like give you a heads up before you go down there. I probably won't be in that room anytime soon.
Yeah, you basically got to make an assumption of, all right, who were the baby faces that won? And then it's almost like a tier list of like, all right, which baby faces won? And then who's a heel that won that might show up and do character work? And then who is just left over after that?
Yeah, and then immediately scratch the Young Bucks off of your list.
Yeah. Well, this is what, I said after All Out, and I was like, this could be a really short press conference because one, we just saw the murder of Bryan Danielson, but and Swerve Strickland.
The attempted murder was the first.
But I was like, this could be a short press conference because you look at the winners. Hangman Page probably wasn't doing that press conference. Swerve is dead, so he's not doing the press conference. All right, Bryan Danielson won, but he got murdered, so he's probably not doing the press conference. Mercedes is going to do character work. Okada, he's going to do character work and say bitch. Statlander, I mean, she would probably do it and be okay, but you weren't sure. Ospreay looked like a lock. The Bucks were going to do character work. MJF got killed. Daniel Garcia lost. And that was it. It's like, when you really look at this, you're getting maybe Ospreay. I don't even remember who did the All Out press conference, by the way. I know Tony was there and did like a short, very truncated thing. But you looked at it, it's like, well, Ospreay and people doing character work. That's what you're looking at for this press conference. And it was one of the shorter ones, literally until this past week, which was an even shorter one.
Oh, this was the one they had to do two of them.
Why did they do two of them?
They did something cut out in the middle?
Not that I remember.
Oh, that's weird. They have two postings here.
Oh, okay.
Of the All Out Media Scrum. Maybe not. Anyway, and now I'm curious, so I'm just going to take a quick look.
Okay.
So I see the hosts. They had Smart Mark Sterling.
Yeah, that wasn't even like a press. That wasn't even like asking questions. It was Renee, RJ, Smart Mark, and other people. I think Daddy Magic. Was Daddy Magic part of that? And they were just like riffing off of basically what just happened at All Out.
Right. And then they had Uno. Okay, sure. So it was split into two. Hold on. So now I got to go back because this is so weird. This is such a... I think it was just Tony. I think it was just Tony at All Out.
Okay. It was short. I know that much.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, long and the short of it is they've been retooling them long enough. But
they should get rid of them. They should get rid of them. And it's not because like I don't think they have some value, because I think they do have some value. The problem is Tony already does a media call before the event. So if you're going to ask Tony questions, you're probably going to ask him there. It's not like a whole lot changes between, he typically does it on a Thursday. So it's not like a whole lot changes between Thursday and the show. So you're basically just asking Tony about the show at that point. All Tony says about the show is it's great. You're not getting anything out of Tony besides the show was great. And then maybe you have an injury update or something, but like otherwise you're not getting a whole lot out of him besides, hey, it was a great show. We did great stuff. Like,
I remember this. Tony basically sits down and says, who's got questions about the TV deal? And then proceeded to dance around any questions about the TV deal and any other questions, which I did not like. And I think a lot of people rightfully took Tony to task for trying to lead the media that way after the show. So, okay, let's say they do decide to get rid of the media post-show scrum. Would it be beneficial for AEW to kind of take on a media day approach for their big events, kind of like WWE does? I'm leaving the question. Yes, is really the answer.
They should have been doing this all along.
Yeah, give the opportunities for media to come, because again, we've mentioned this so many times. There's no money in us going to these shows. We don't make money doing this. It's a loss leader. When we go, we being the wrestling media, an opportunity to speak to talent on the record, on camera, whatever it is, to get content and put it up there and to ask those questions and have fun with it. Not every person is going to be out here trying to ask those, super tough waterboard questions. Some people are going to ask tougher questions than others, but at the end of the day, it's content, and that content's going to fuel not only the exposure of the talent, but also the opportunity for exposure, and if you're a monetized YouTube channel, to make some of the money back from your transportation and other things like that. That would be beneficial for AEW on multiple ways. It's a give and take, and I think WWE does a good job with that. Some experiences are better than others, but they should be doing a media day that's not just at All In.
Yeah, Jason asking, does WWE do a media event for all PLEs? They didn't do one for Bad Blood, which was a little surprising. But for most of them, they do it.
They do them for the international shows, and they do them for the big ones. So WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series is in Vancouver anyway, but they did one for Money in the Bank because it was Toronto, and yeah, they're not going to do one at a place like Bad Blood because they're just going to have their main storytellers go and do a lot of media, and that'll be enough. They already had butts in seats for that one. I think they feel like most US based shows that are not Mania, SummerSlam, Rumble, they already have the local people coming in for that.
Yeah, they should still do the little junkets for them, and maybe it's not as big as they do it for the other shows, but they should still do it.
They also, though, still do the post-show scrums, and they've tooled them to a certain degree where you can still get your content from those as well. They're not the same, but they are still mostly, in character. You're there, you can ask a question in a junket format.
Those are run just overall much better. And look, Triple H gives you the answers he's going to give you, and that's on him. But at least you know that you're going to get an answer out of him. You might not like the answer. It might be a very stupid answer, but he's not just going to talk around things. He does it to himself with some of these answers, but he's not just going to completely talk around things. And they're short enough as well. Tony will give you an answer that's a 12-minute answer where it doesn't say anything. And it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the one thing with Paul is he's gotten to the point where he's got his notes that he just rattles off right at the top. And then how he answers a question after that is entirely his own situation. But at least you're not going to get a rehash of what he's already talked about.
Or he's not just going to say nothing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And again, when it's a lot different when it comes to WWE, because Triple H doesn't do the media calls before the shows anymore, like he used to do before NXT. And now Sean sometimes does them. I don't feel like they had one before the last one. Maybe they did. Next week they have a PLE, so we'll see if they do one. But he doesn't do those media calls anymore. So literally, like, the only time you might get to ask Triple H a question is in these press conferences, because it's not like he's doing weekly media or anything either. Tony does a lot of local media still and does do a lot of those spots, and he does the media call before all the major events. So this isn't really like you go to these things because you want to talk to Tony Khan largely. Maybe you get lucky enough that somebody else is there that you want to talk to, but you don't know who's going to be there. You just don't. You don't know if they might lose and then they don't show up to the press conference and then you get nothing out of that. But Tony is already like kind of accessible with this. So him doing them, it doesn't feel like there's as much gain as there used to be when it came to these, because it did feel like back in the day there was some gain because it was new and it was different, and Cody would do a lot of them and Cody would give you some answers and everything, like, so it felt like you were actually getting something out of them. Now though, they're just nothing, and Tony is way more accessible.
Yeah, I'd like to see him not do a pre-show call and a post-show scrum if they're going to do it this way. Do one or the other, don't do both. But again, you have to find a way to give the wrestling media that comes in an opportunity to make their money back somehow. Don't know.
Well, yeah, that's where you got to do. I feel like the junkets beforehand. Otherwise, like wrestling media has no real reason to go to these things outside of a free ticket.
The show never ends. What are you talking about? You're behind. Have fun catching up to that when you do it. I love it. This is how you know someone's an hour behind us. Jeff Teague, the Jimmy Butler story. I was like, this was dorm room talk. We were an hour behind that. Will Chisholm sent a super chat saying, I still laugh when EO's reaction to the Taylor Swift question. I was like, did you really just ask me that? Bailey and Dakota had to play it off. And like, this was I think a lot of people got really angry about this performatively. They got anger tained over this. Shout out. I've been pretty honest about people I do or do not like. I'm not the biggest fan of the person who asked the question, but like they got content out of it at a time when Taylor Swift was heavily featured in the news and thought he would get clicks out of it. And like asking EO was probably not the right person, but like I got where they were going with it. It was hokey as hell, but it's kayfabe vortex. What do you want to do? It was what it was.
Yeah. I mean, somebody should have asked Mariah May about Taylor Swift. At least she would have been asked a question. Mariah would have given a fantastic answer, honestly.
Tony made reference to working with Taylor's team ahead of All In. Yeah. So like in the most recent call. So why not do that? I would like to see that. Anyway, so much yapping. We should probably talk about AEW Dynamite tonight, other than Moxley coming out. I'm going to pull up this card. Did you like Tony Khan at 11 p.m. on a Monday, just telling everyone who Jay White's other opponent is, who Jay White's the other person he's going after is?
And they announced that match. That's a good match.
They announced the match. It's going to be Christian Cage versus Jay White. The only reason I make a joke about it is because Jay White spent a good solid week being like, I have a couple of people who have wronged me and I'm going to do it right. And then after he beats Hangman Page, he says, that second person, they won't see it coming. I'll come after them when I want to come after them. And then Tony Khan's like, based off his big win at Wrestle Dream, Christian Cage is the other man he wronged. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. So Christian Cage, Jay White tonight, beginning of something, or Jay White gets the win and Christian Cage just loses something.
It feels like Jay White's got to win.
Do they do a different finish and Jay White goes after the Christian contract?
It is funny that Tony Khan was just like, anyway, Christian's the second man. Like, come on, Tony.
You could have at least had a promo off or something. Like,
yeah.
I just wanted something. And I'm not I just wanted something else.
It feels like you could have waited a week for this match, honestly. You could have done this next week and given a little more build to it. Not to say that there's been no build, because we know that the build goes back to the Owen tournament and then Jay White's return saying a second man wronged him. It's just, you basically cut a week of promos off to do the match. And look, maybe it is a DQ finish and it leads to a bigger match. It's very possible, but you still cut a week of storytelling off by just announcing this match on Twitter and being like, anyway, yeah, he's the second man, instead of Jay White doing an attack or confronting Christian or something like that.
And those two guys are not, they're not idiots when it comes to a promo. They can absolutely get going. It would have been perfect. It was funny to watch him like just cut the legs out on 11 o'clock on a Monday night. It's like, Raw's been over for a while, but here we are. So anyway, that's going to be a match for tonight on Dynamite. We talked about Jon Moxley's advertised. Adam Cole comes back tonight, baby. He's going to have something. He's going to have a promo, and I assume MJF is also going to have something to say about it.
Who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby?
He's going to open with that, isn't he? Maybe Adam Cole joins the conglomeration.
I hope he comes out in the devil mask.
That would be very funny. Or his new Tron is like, it's all about the boom, but then it's the devil mask just comes up. It's all about the
It just comes out in the devil mask. But then he just like takes it off and then he leaves it in the ring and doesn't mention it at all. Just never says anything about like why he was wearing it. He just comes out, leaves it in the ring, cuts the promo who's always going to cut. MJF comes out and they do a back and forth. And then the devil mash just disappears during a commercial break. And that's it.
Easy peasy. Shelton
The
Benjamin.
entire UK, Henry Bowers.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of beans and toast to bring out on Dynamite.
Geez. That's a lot of people there.
I mean, listen, if you're going to do it anyway, do it in San Jose. Shelton Benjamin, Leo Rush. A lot of people clamoring that this is maybe the debut of Bobby Lashley, but what if it's the return of Powerhouse Hobbs instead?
Powerhouse.
I would love to see Powerhouse get involved in Leo and Shelton's business at the end. Maybe Leo Rush gets a heavy, and maybe him and Powerhouse start working together, and he tells him to hit him with the pose.
Powerhouse is part of the Don Callis family. Last I checked,
allegedly.
Yeah, true.
Everyone is going to try the learning tree. Powerhouse Hobbs. But I would like to see Powerhouse return tonight. If you're not going to do Bobby Lashley comes out, I'd rather have.
They're going to just bring Powerhouse out for Rampage and just give him a Rampage match.
You know, I thought about that, and it'd be so frustrating. It would be awful. I just don't want to see it that way. I want to see Powerhouse Hobbs have a moment, but who knows? Maybe they'll. This is a pretty stacked card. They've pretty much given you everything here. Conglomeration take on the Elite, so it's going to be O'Reilly, Cassidy, and Romero versus Okada and the Bucks. Obviously, Okada and O'Reilly is something that they're trying to get towards, and then the Bucks versus who knows next.
Rocky's probably taking this pinfall. Okada's probably pinning Rocky.
Bitch. After O'Reilly has like some sort of close near fall on Okada, gets the visual near fall. Referee's knocked out or something, or distracted by the Bucks.
I don't know if I would have put Orange Cassidy in this match
because of everything going on with Moxley.
Yeah, and then Jerry Lynn being like, you got the talent to be like the guy. Look, maybe Orange Cassidy pins Okada, and that's how we get to potentially Orange Cassidy and Okada. But when I saw this,
I was gonna say I think it's more likely that Okada pins Romero, and Cassidy is just like, oh, fuck this, and just like walks off, not upset, frustrated, but not pissed off.
Yeah. I saw this and I'm like, I don't know if I would have put Orange Cassidy in the spot. Maybe they got some type of plan, but based on Saturday and Jerry Lynn saying you're the guy and Orange Cassidy being part of that final segment, I'm just putting him in a 6-man tag team match. Just didn't feel like the move to me. They could book this well. They could give you something out of this, and I might come here on Friday and be like, you know what? Actually, that worked out. That was a good call. But my initial thought was, I don't know.
Being asked about Omega and Copeland. Copeland is working out, but don't know his clearance level. And Omega, it looks like we've still got some time. Would not be expecting him anytime soon.
Kota Ibushi said 2 to 3 months for Kenny. How much you want to believe Kota Ibushi is up to you, but you can't deny that the man would know.
In my eyes and in my brain, the most logical return for Kenny at the earliest would be Wrestle Dream against the Bucks, him and Tanahashi. We talked about this on Wednesday. If Omega's clear and good, earliest would be Wrestle Dynasty to do a match against the Young Bucks with Kazuchika Okada. With Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah.
My bad. Okada's the guy who says bitch a lot.
Yes.
But maybe Okada comes out during that match and we set up Tanahashi versus Okada on Tanahashi's last run.
I think they'll end up wrestling at some point in the last run.
Have to.
Yeah.
Do it at Dominion. Yeah. Smack dab in the middle of the year. TBS Championship. Oh, actually, no. We'll get to that last. FTR takes on Brian Keith and Big Bill. The way that they promoted this was interesting because they had it in relief of what's been of Hurricane Helene and everything FTR has been doing. And I'm thinking to myself, how does this, like, what's the money situation? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? How are you trying to tell me that this match raises funds for them unless you tell me what FTR is giving up their booking fee? Like, I like what they're trying to tell me, but they didn't really explain it. FTR has a tag match. It's in benefit for those who are, for relief efforts after Hurricane Helene. I'm just, Tony didn't say anything in the tweet or in the match graphic. Is it merch sales during the match? Is that what they're saying? Is that what we're doing?
How do you determine that?
That's kind of like, do I stop? And I'm not trying to be a shithead here. Like, I'm really not. I'm just curious. Again, I said, like, does FTR give their booking fee for this particular match? Like, is that what's going on? Are they giving a portion of their pay? Like, I just want to know that this is being done in a certain way. Like a QR code for donations, that's fine. You can argue that you could do that throughout every single match if you're trying to do this. I'm curious about how they came to this being the match for relief efforts. Again, FTR being there, 100%, I get it. What's the money?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that as well when I saw this graphic. I was like, can you not put like the charities, tag them here on your tweet, Tony? Like, so we can get easy access to if we want to donate and everything. Yeah, I don't know how it is in support of hurricane relief. Maybe it is. I would hope that Excalibur Shivani like make some type of reference during it, and hopefully a QR code is popped up. But yeah, do that throughout the whole show. I think would be a good idea there as well. What if like they just confused learning tree and money tree, and FTR just comes out and was like, "We about to hit the big rig on you, you bish."
It's from a story standpoint, like it makes sense. Do not get me wrong. FTR even said, learning tree messed with our brother Mark Briscoe, and here we are. We're gonna get our it's very strange. They
still call it the big rig. What do they call that thing?
Shatter Machine.
Oh, is it back to Shatter Machine? It was the big rig for a while, right?
Yeah, but I think when Copeland came back, I think they signed the copyright back. They got it back. Okay. So now, because I've heard Excalibur called the Shatter Machine 100 times whenever he's called.
I don't know why I went big rig, but
yeah, the graphic says supporting hurricane relief efforts for Mana Food Bank, Beloved Asheville, and AVLDC. And like, this is all great. I just wish I knew where, why, how. There's just nothing in support. It just says in support of hurricane relief. I hope that they give us something to explain what that's supposed to be.
Shatter Machine on Brian Keith, you bish.
Yeah, like
this is the bald one. FTR bald, FTR hair, you bish.
Anyway, like
send money to hurricane relief, you bish.
So anyway, but like, yeah, they donate a lump sum to a charity of their choice, and then they both choose to donate to the victims. It's just something. Oh, I'm hoping they clear it up on commentary because it's good faith. I just need to see that faith enacted. And then finally for the TBS championship, it's going to be Mercedes Moné versus Queen Aminata. I've made reference to this before. Feels like we're going to get Moné and Camille versus Aminata and Chris to get to Camille versus Chris Statlander to get to Moné versus Chris Statlander.
This just feels like a nice little win for Mercedes, and then we set stuff up in the post match.
Look at us putting it all together. Dynamite Fright Night is in 2 weeks in Cleveland, Ohio.
Hey, you kind of referenced this one of maybe they would do something special here.
It was obvious to me, and here it is. They've applied for the trademarks. There it is.
I don't know if I'm going to go to that show. Again, downtown's going to be friggin' just a hellhole with a. It already is. It's Cleveland, you know what I mean?
But I have been there. I do know.
Yeah, it's gonna be even worse with Lakers coming to town and LeBron and everything. We're gonna be like the only people at this Dynamite. Everybody's gonna be at the Lakers and Cavaliers game. We're just like, yeah.
It's just you and the wife. Feel like do a flip.
Where's Brian Danielson?
My watch just replied with interesting question. Thank you, Apple Watch. You know exactly what's wrong with the world. But yeah, Dynamite tonight looks good. For the third time, it's always you come after a big pay-per-view, you want a Dynamite that hits and hits hard. This is one time where I really agree with that sentiment, and I hope that they deliver. We'll see where it goes. It's got to open with Moxley. That's all I got to say.
I think it can open with Darby, and that'll be okay.
Just you got to open with addressing the Wrestle Dream finale.
Yeah, you can't open as much as like the MJF Adam Cole like segment I am looking forward to, and obviously there's got to be some explanation there. I don't think you can open with that. I don't think you can open with a match. It's gotta be, maybe they do a pre-tape with the Moxley thing. That they've done that in the past few weeks. They've just done like a video and Moxley just kind of did a pre-tape thing. And then later on in the night, maybe he came out. Like, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Whatever the first shot is, whether it's a pre-tape, whether it's in the arena, whatever it might be, it's got to be in reference to how Wrestle Dream ended. Whether that's get pre-tape, Moxley live, Darby Allin live, whoever that might be. It's got to be a reference to that. It can't be
You know, it's all about that.
If I hear that shit to start the show, I'm turning it off.
I'm going to message Tony Khan angrily. Redo the entire format right now.
I actually like that theme. It's pretty good theme.
It's great. It's just not the right place on the show. But yeah, the first segment should absolutely build up from what we saw at the end of Wrestle Dream, and we'll see where it is. We'll be back.
They're going to open with Mercedes.
No, they'll give her the crossover.
Oh,
either the crossover or the main event, because she's the only title on the line. So she's either in the main event or she's Shelton versus Leo could be the main. I don't know. Regardless, we're going to be back on Friday to do this, talk about everything that happened on Dynamite and everything that obviously happened on TNA, the return of Vikingo to challenge Speedball Mike Bailey at Bound for Glory. I know you're all excited for that. And if you want that take sooner, check out the Spotlight with Jeremy Lambert and Steven Jensen this Thursday. That's tomorrow. Allegedly. I know Jensen's toying with the idea of some time changes. Go check out the Weekender podcast for more information on that. Now you do. He's toying with an evening approach. So have fun dealing with that. And your production meeting will be a lot of fun. Jeremy, is there anything you want to plug before we get on out of here?
Joel, I have a math question for you.
Oh, I suck at math. I do this for a living. I don't do math.
What does one duel plus two duels equal?
I don't know.
Toodles.
For Jeremy Lambert, I am Joel Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, toodles.